In the 7th year of Athaliah's reign, Jehoiada the priest summoned the commanders, the Karite mercenaries, and the palace guards to come to the temple of the Lord. He made a solemn pact with them and made them swear an oath of loyalty there in the Lord's temple. Then he showed them the king's son. Then Jehoiada brought out Joash, the king's son, placed the crown on his head, and presented him with a copy of God's laws. They anointed him and proclaimed him king, and everyone clapped their hands and shouted, "Long live the king!" Then the commanders, the Karite mercenaries, the palace guards, and all the people of the land escorted the king from the temple of the Lord. They went through the gate of the guards and into the palace, and the king took his seat on the royal throne. Joash was 7 years old when he became king. What's up, cool people? My name's Matt. Welcome back to our Bible study. Alright, 2 Kings chapter 11. So, last chapter, Jehu wiped out all of Ahab's descendants. Ahab had been one of the kings of Israel who very much had a hand in leading them further from God. Especially his wife Jezebel. But Ahab being king is kind of also held responsible for that. So, God basically used Jehu to enact his vengeance. Then Jehu takes over and still doesn't exactly follow God. And then right at the end, we read about his son taking over. But it seems like now we're hopping over to Judah. So, yeah, that may or may not really be directly related. But let's hop into 2 Kings chapter 11 here and see what happens. I'm not sure whether to pronounce this Athaliah or Athaliah. Athaliah seems like it flows a little better to me. I don't know. Anyway, okay, here we go. When Athaliah, the mother of King Ahaziah of Judah, learned that her son was dead, she began to destroy the rest of the royal family. But Ahaziah's sister, Jehosheba, the daughter of King Jehoram, I don't know, took Ahaziah's infant son, Joash, and stole him away from among the rest of the king's children who were about to be killed. She put Joash and his nurse in a bedroom, and they hid him from Athaliah so the child was not murdered. Joash remained hidden in the temple of the Lord for 6 years, while Athaliah ruled over the land. So, why would she have destroyed the rest of the royal family, though? That, unless she really just wanted to be in charge that badly, and she took the, momentary, fluctuation in power to kind of take over for a while. Hebrew there says Joram, which is a variant spelling of Jehoram. Okay. But I think maybe it was Jehoram and Ahaziah who were like either brothers or I'm pretty sure they were related to each other. In any case, Athaliah intends to, wipe out all the rest of Ahaziah's family, but his sister decides to put one of his sons in hiding. And so Joash still, survives. Okay, verse 4. In the 7th year of Athaliah's reign, Jehoiada the priest summoned the commanders, the Karite mercenaries, and the palace guards to come to the temple of the Lord. He made a solemn pact with them and made them swear an oath of loyalty there in the Lord's temple. Then he showed them the king's son. The king's son in that case being Joash, I would assume. But let's read on. Jehoiada told them, "This is what you must do. A third of you who are on duty on the Sabbath are to guard the royal palace itself. Another third of you are to stand guard at the Sur gate. And the final third must stand guard behind the palace guard. These 3 groups will all guard the palace. The other 2 units who are off duty on the Sabbath must stand guard for the king at the Lord's temple. Form a bodyguard around the king and keep your weapons in hand. Kill anyone who tries to break through. Stay with the king wherever he goes." So the commanders did everything as Jehoiada the priest ordered. The commanders took charge of the men reporting for duty that Sabbath, as well as those who were going off duty. They brought them all to Jehoiada the priest, and he supplied them with the spears and small shields that had once belonged to King David and were stored in the temple of the Lord. The palace guards stationed themselves around the king, with their weapons ready. They formed a line from the south side of the temple around to the north side and all around the altar. Then Jehoiada brought out Joash, the king's son, placed the crown on his head, and presented him with a copy of God's laws. They anointed him and proclaimed him king, and everyone clapped their hands and shouted, "Long live the king!" So, this happened in the 7th year of Athaliah's reign, so it doesn't say what age Joash was. It did say he was an infant, I believe. Took Ahaziah's infant son, Joash. Yeah. So, like, he can't be much more than 7 years old at this point. Like, maybe 10? But clearly they don't like what Athaliah is doing as queen, so now the priest is essentially saying, alright, look, we have a descendant of the previous king. Really, he should be the rightful king by law. And so, because Joash is so young, though, he whips up a plan to just constantly protect Joash, the newly established king. Because he's not really going to be able to do it very well himself. Note there, it's instead of God's laws, it could be read as a copy of the covenant. But that was essentially another way to refer to God's laws, especially like the 10 Commandments and a bunch of that stuff that was established as kind of the main responsibilities of God's people when, you know, Moses brought them out of Egypt and they all, you know, made this covenant agreement to follow the Lord. Okay. On to verse 13. When Athaliah heard the noise made by the palace guards and the people, she hurried to the Lord's temple to see what was happening. When she arrived, she saw the newly crowned king standing in his place of authority by the pillar, as was the custom at times of coronation. The commanders and trumpeters were surrounding him, and people from all over the land were rejoicing and blowing trumpets. When Athaliah saw all this, she tore her clothes in despair and shouted, "Treason! Treason!" Then Jehoiada the priest ordered the commanders who were in charge of the troops, "Take her to the soldiers in front of the temple, and kill anyone who tries to rescue her." For the priest had said, "She must not be killed in the temple of the Lord." So they seized her and led her out to the gate where horses enter the palace grounds, and she was killed there. So, yeah, it's a little bit ironic that she cries treason when she's the one who decided to try and kill off all of Ahaziah's descendants. Or at least his sons. But yeah. So she did. And I guess that just even further solidifies that Joash is the king now. And you would hope, with him being presented with a copy of God's laws at such a young age, that, maybe he would follow them decently throughout his life. But we'll see what happens there. Note there could be bring her out from between the ranks or take her out of the temple precincts, meaning uncertain. Either way, the point was they didn't want any bloodshed in the temple of the Lord, so they took her outside and killed her there instead. And they I'm trying to make sure. Kill anyone who tries to rescue her. Okay, so would they have killed those people in the temple? Maybe it was just they didn't want to kill, anyone of the royal family inside the temple. I mean, I would think you don't want to kill anybody in the temple, but especially not royalty. Then again, I seem to recall, when Solomon became king after David, there was somebody that basically had to be killed. Although it wasn't the temple yet, it was the tabernacle. Anyway, somebody had, grabbed the horns of an altar at, the tabernacle, or definitely somewhere where they usually offered sacrifices. And so I guess maybe they're not completely opposed to the idea of killing just anyone. The royal family, though, anyway. Okay. On to verse 17. And I realize I am kind of ripping through this chapter pretty quick compared to some of the others, but it's also a little on the short side. Anywho. Okay, verse 17. Then Jehoiada made a covenant between the Lord and the king and the people, that they would be the Lord's people. He also made a covenant between the king and the people. And all the people of the land went over to the temple of Baal and tore it down. They demolished the altars and smashed the idols to pieces. And they killed Mattan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altars. Jehoiada the priest stationed guards at the temple of the Lord. Then the commanders, the Karite mercenaries, the palace guards, and all the people of the land escorted the king from the temple of the Lord. They went through the gate of the guards and into the palace, and the king took his seat on the royal throne. So all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was peaceful because Athaliah, had been killed at the king's palace. Joash was 7 years old when he became king. So yeah, he was literally 7 when all this happened. But you're giving him a copy of God's laws, essentially, of, how did it word it up there? Yeah, a copy of God's laws at that age. So hopefully he's going to get trained up good. So I guess he had been at the temple when they declared him king, and then after killing Athaliah, the queen, they escorted him to the palace, and he took the seat at the king's throne. So, yeah. Joash is king, sitting on the throne. I wonder if he got an escort like that. Well, there could be 2 reasons. One, to help protect him from anybody who might, not like the idea. But also maybe to kind of be sort of a royal procession and make it obvious that, all right, Joash is the king now, for the whole city, at least, to see. Note there, okay, so the verse 21 here is chapter 12, verse 1 in the Hebrew text. I'm not surprised by that. Hebrew says Jehoash instead of Joash there, but was that... I don't think it had that note further up in the chapter, but still, the assumption is it's referring to the same boy. So now we have a 7-year-old king over Judah. But odds are Jehoiada and some other officials are pretty much going to be handling all the details of actually ruling the kingdom, at least for a while. But that is all we get for 2 Kings chapter 11. Alright, so we had a queen in Judah, a queen ruling Judah briefly. Like, all the previous kings had their queens that were wives of the kings, but we had a queen actually just ruling Judah for a while. But it seems like there were enough people that didn't like that they whipped up a plan to have somebody else instated. Especially because basically the family that she tried to get rid of, there was a survivor. And so, yeah, now we have a very young king in Judah, only 7 years old. But first off, it's probably... he's probably not going to do the actual, ruling and decision-making and all that kind of stuff for a while. But it seems like the priests are doing their best to get him off to a good start. So hopefully, Joash ends up being a good king. But we'll see as we progress through the book. So as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel to get updates when I post new videos. We'll look down in the description for links to social media pages and all sorts of good stuff like that. If you want some examples, I've got Facebook, Twitter/X, whatever you prefer to call that, Instagram, TikTok, assuming that's still a thing by the time this video releases, and others as well. I've got a Discord server, I've got a supporter page, all sorts of things down there to look at. And of course, leave comments down below that with any other kind of thoughts, questions, whatever that you have for me. But that's going to do it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you soon for another video. Whatever the case is, till next time, stay cool, people.